Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Macgeorge Fellowship Public Lecture. I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning. My name's Julie Willis, and I happen to be a co-director of ACAHUCH, which is hosting tonight's event. ACAHUCH is the Australian Centre for Architectural History, Urban and Cultural Heritage. It's based here in the faculty as a research centre established to promote and undertake high-quality, collaborative and interdisciplinary research in design, application, theory, history, politics and cultural significance of architecture, urban and cultural heritage. Sorry, I just noticed there's something gone in the Zoom here, but I'll just say okay, and hopefully it's still going. This lecture and fellowship is supported by the Macgeorge bequest. The bequest is a gift received by the university from Norman Macgeorge, artist and patron of the arts, and his wife May Macgeorge, also an artist. The bequest was to enable the fulfilment of their wish to promote the arts at the University of Melbourne and for their home, Ballingate, to continue as a place of encouragement of the arts. The creation of the Macgeorge Fellowships ensured this practice has continued. Macgeorge Fellowships are open to artists, performers, writers or researchers in the visual, creative and performing arts, music, architecture, conservation, literature, creative writing, language, history, philosophy and anthropology, and ABP has a long history of welcoming Macgeorge Fellows. So to commence tonight's event, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the unceded land on which we work, learn and live, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong peoples. The university also acknowledges and is grateful to the traditional owners, elders and knowledge holders of all Indigenous nations and clans who have been instrumental in our reconciliation journey. We recognise the unique place held by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the original custodians of the lands and waterways across the Australian continent, with histories of continuous connection dating back more than 60,000 years. We pay respect to elders past, present and future and acknowledge the importance of Indigenous knowledge in the Academy. And it's now my pleasure to welcome tonight's speaker. Associate Professor Tomaszek is an internationally renowned expert on the conservation of historic timber structures. His research has encompassed timber vernacular structures across Europe, the Americas and Asia, and I left the two books that he's got just down on my seat there, and offers a unique perspective and understanding of these buildings and the material of which they are constructed. He's joined us from his home institution, and I'm going to try very hard to pronounce it, and you'll forgive me for not doing it well. The Macgeorge University of Technology in Poland. Tomasz has been here and Carolyn Fry has been working with him to visit a whole series of timber structures across Victoria as part of the Macgeorge Fellowship, and we had a very enjoyable time on Saturday looking at a couple of slab huts that happened to be on a property I own. It's been a fantastic time having you here, Tomasz, and we very much look forward to your lecture tonight on the wooden vernacular sacred architecture in Poland. Welcome, Tomasz.
Yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. As a first words, I would like to say big thank you to Professor Julie Willis, to all Macgeorge bequest staff. Special thanks to Caroline and all of those who made it possible to give me this outstanding chance to be here in Australia and to see these outstanding structures. So it's very difficult in 45 minutes to tell you all of it, what I want to tell you about. I try the best, and I like to tell you that probably I will be skipping some stuff in meantime, looking at the time. So if there are any questions later, I will be happy to answer. So as Professor Julie Willis said, I'm coming from Poland, from Rzeszów University of Technology. I am not used to speak to microphone. This is why it's so difficult for me. And I am going to talk today about wooden vernacular architecture in Poland, particularly about sacred architecture, about a little bit description, a little bit introduction about how it looks, and also about the conservation problems we face. Hope it works. Does not.
Basil knows.
I felt
It's actually not really.
Okay, fine.
Is it?
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. So, oh, it works now. So, firstly, I will give you some introduction. Then I will talk about Greek Catholic churches and why about Greek Catholic churches. Well, again, time is very short, so I need to be precise, and I will try to do as much as I can. Greek Catholic churches belong to Ukrainian communities. And because I worked for a long time on those kind of churches, I thought that because of the situation in the world, and everybody was talking about Ukraine lately, you will be interested in seeing some of those structures. They are in Poland, and they are left by Ukrainians, and they are one of the most beautiful churches we have. And as a case study, I will show you one of those churches and then tell you about the way how we analyze them, and finally introduce some approach that can be done, I hope, to save those structures. If time allows, I will talk about iconostasis. So maybe I will leave for later explanation what is this. So, sorry for this, not this way. So, introduction. That's the only quotation I think I will read. There is a special kind of architectural monuments for which Poland is not less known than any country in Europe. On the contrary, nowhere except for Scandinavia, we do not find them in such richness and diversity. The speech is, of course, about the wooden Christian churches. In Poland, on the other hand, Podkarpacie, which is the part of Poland I am coming from, would be found at the Foremont. And, sorry, not that way. We have two types of sacred wooden architecture, wooden buildings in Poland. Actually, that's not really true. We have more than two, but I choose to talk about two because they are the most important. One, there are Roman Catholic churches, which comes from Latin tradition, and the other one that I just a few minutes mentioned before are Greek Catholic churches. They are coming from Eastern Orthodox tradition. We call them in Poland cerkiew. So now I need to stop to give you some short and brief introduction because I believe for many of you this needs to be done. Poland is from the history, the Catholic country. So we follow the Roman tradition, Roman Catholic tradition, and by administration, we belong to the Roman Pope in Rome. In the 16th century, when Poland extended and took some other countries around to create a union, we also, some parts of what now is called Ukraine join our country. But they belong to Orthodox tradition. So they follow a little bit different Christianity. And because we became one country, the King of Poland allowed them to keep the tradition, but by administration, they must belong to the Roman Pope. So this is why we call them Greek Catholic. From one hand, we have Roman Catholic churches. They are, let's say, very Polish churches. And the other hand, we have Greek Catholic churches, Orthodox tradition, they were built by Ukrainians. That's quite a complicated story, what's happened for the next few centuries. But after Second War, the borders of Poland changed and Ukrainians were pushed to out of Poland, and they left their heritage. So we still have a lot of those churches. Nobody's taking care of them. So now I will start to showing you some examples, and please forgive me because I have so many pictures. I will be going very quickly, but I thought, well, or showing you one or showing you 30 something. 30 something is better, even it's very short. So let's start me with Latin tradition, the Polish churches built by Roman Catholic communities. What is the difference? Well, they have one, let's say, distinct space. We can say they are divided in two spaces, the nave and the sanctuary. So actually, I should go to the blackboard and show you. Maybe I will do it. Sorry for online. That's the nave. I'm sorry, that's the sanctuary, that's the nave. However, there is one open space. Why I am talking about it? Because the Greek Catholic churches are completely different, and I will come to this in 2-3 minutes. So this is one of the oldest Latin tradition Roman Catholic churches in Poland, UNESCO list, and 16th century. Before I will show you the other one, I am not going to talk more about I'm not going to give you more characteristics, but only one thing. Because those churches were built in very rural areas, still rural areas, they were built one for few villages. And people lived very far from those churches. So they could not walk easily on Sunday morning. So they left houses on Saturdays, walk many hours to be ready for Sunday mass. So they need to sleep somewhere. And they slept around the church. So this is why you see this kind of roof surrounding the church with covering space like an umbrella. We call it soboty, which free translation is Saturdays, for people to sleep. Okay, then I will show you the different churches. This is actually the same church from different view. That's also this one showing you this soboty. That's the different church. Also the Gothic. This is considered to be the biggest Gothic church in Europe, well, maybe in the world. Also UNESCO and 14th century. That's the other view of this church. And now what is important, because this is, sorry, I don't know what is making these sounds, but again, I am not, I'm not used to talk to microphone. What is the important point? I would like to do it now because part of my lecture is about it. Those structures are, all of those structures, I must say, are richly polychromed inside. So this is polychromy, this polychromy is coming from that church, also Gothic polychromy. And let me start, show you the other one, the third one, famous Latin. Again, this is Latin Polish churches. So this is Blizny, 15th century, again, UNESCO list. Oh, that's maybe not so nice looking, but also so beautiful, different one in Gogolów. Now, let's switch to Greek Catholic churches. They are very different. Actually, when you ask me about the Greek Catholic communities, what kind of, let's say, churches we have and how they differ from each other, even after living in Poland and working all my life with this, I have difficulties because there were so many local traditions and there is not one Greek Catholic. There are several different Greek Catholic groups. They follow different tradition, different way of understanding space. But what was the same for them? What was always seen in those churches? They are divided into three parts. Always. Like we are talking about the Latin tradition, about Polish churches, they have one space. They always have three. So maybe I will come and show you on the blackboard because this is the best way. is the nave, and this is the woman porch. So sanctuary, nave, woman porch. What is this? Sanctuary is a sacred space, but it's closed from the nave. It's not open like in Roman tradition. It's closed by iconostasis. Only Pope can go there. So people stay in nave. Well, men stay in nave. And the third part on the left is the woman porch. It was for the woman. And still it is working like this in the traditional communities. So now I will show you different churches. They belong to different traditions, like Lemko, Boyko, Ukrainian, so many traditions in Poland. This is very rich land for, this is borderline between East and West. So those churches have characteristics of Orthodox architecture mixed with Latin architecture. This is why they're so unique, because those people follow Orthodox, but were under administration of Roman Pope. Let me quickly show you the other examples. So that's Skwirtne. Also, as you see, three parts. That's Skwirtne from the other side, also very distinct three parts. One of the oldest one, Uluch, even looks very different. Well, each of them are different. I mean, there are so many differences. Still, they are very distinct three parts. This one has those soboty, Saturdays for people to sleep. This is Uluch from the different side. That's details, very barrel-like vault, which is very unusual. This is a picture showing this. And this is the other photo, usually or always the cemeteries were surrounding those churches. So some more details to give you some idea. And then polychromy, because as well as Latin tradition churches, the Greek Catholic churches were also richly polychromed. The other Greek Catholic church, UNESCO list, Chotyniec from 17th century, and one of the oldest, the most beautiful, also UNESCO list, Radrusz. So again, very distinct three parts. The sanctuary close by iconostas, by iconostasis wall, the nave for men, and the woman porch for women. And the other picture showing you the Radrusz from other side, different side. And as you see, well, not as you see on the right side, the bell tower. That's again complicated history, because depends on the style about the group of the people they were building separately or they were attaching to the church. So this is for many days, many lectures, not for one, unfortunately. So let me show you the other Gorajec, one of the oldest. And finally, that's iconostasis wall, which is closing the sacred space from the people. Why I said the Latin churches have one space? Because they don't have iconostasis. So you can see the Pope during the Mass. That's one of the biggest difference. And let me show you a few others to give you some idea how they look. That's again Greek Catholic Church in Piątkowa, closest view of Piątkowa, 18th century. That's other view of Piątkowa. And here, maybe before you notice, they have domes. Those domes are typical for Orthodox. So again, I am just underlining it. Those Greek Catholic communities, Ukrainian communities, not living anymore in Poland, now moved to what is called Ukraine, who are living over there, following Orthodox. This is why majority of this structure has those Orthodox characteristics, but at the same time, also Western characteristics. So this is mixture. Some details like a soboty, Saturdays, some details in the description of the date, and different church. This church actually is showing the even more advanced mixture, because this is Eastern and Western mixed in the way that looks like Western church, but actually follow inside three parts. So it's divided into three, but from outside it looks like it is one. So this is something that started to be common in 19th century when there was kind of Latinization of Greek Catholic churches. One or two more pictures of this church, and finally iconostasis. Here you can see also the altar of Roman Catholic Church in the front of iconostasis, because when Ukrainians were moved from Poland, some of the churches were are used by Latin communities. Oh, well, you saw these beautiful churches in well condition, and you think, okay, everything is so beautiful. Well, it's not, because actually majority of the churches are in very bad condition. And now I show you again very briefly few examples of the churches, how they look now. The first one in Rakova, actually from outside it doesn't look bad, but interior is in worse condition. So this is a funny story. It was abandoned, then took by Roman Catholic community and abandoned again. So maybe I will add something because maybe it's not clear for you. So Ukrainians abandoned those churches in 1947 because after 45, 2 years was very difficult time between Poland and Ukraine. There was so many tensions, and then finally they were removed from Poland in 47, and they left the heritage. So there are other views of this church, other pictures to give you some brief idea how the churches look, not going into details. Sorry for so many pictures. Built in 18th century. And it also has iconostasis inside and cemeteries around. One or two more pictures, instance on the hill, like majority of those churches, but it's not in such bad condition like those that are coming now. So here is the other in Babice. This one was built in 19th century on the side of the former church and is located on the hill. From outside, maybe not as such fascinating like the other one, but this is the bell tower. But if we go inside, you will see that it has a rich polychromy. And we have so many wooden structures like this standing in the southeastern part of Poland in the condition like this. This is the wall after the iconostasis. Icons are or stolen or located in the museums. So I'm just briefly giving you some idea by showing photos about the state that are just almost collapsing. Again, maybe not outstandingly beautiful from outside, but still interior is quite nice. And the other one, Tsevkov. I just choose few examples to give you ideas. So this is one more in Tsevkov. And that one is in similar condition. So it was shingled around, not only the roof, but also walls. As you see, they stay abandoned, left in 47. Nobody is taking care about them. And we are losing them day after day. And we have so many of those churches around Poland. So a little bit going quicker with those pictures. I will now stop here in the case study. So this is the church I chose years ago and was working on it and done some analysis that I'm going to talk right now. This one is located in Miękisz Stary. Why is so fascinating one? Because it looks like a Baroque architecture, like the stone Baroque architecture, but this is wooden Baroque architecture, but Greek Catholic architecture. So it follows Roman Catholic tradition implemented. Well, it is Greek Catholic tradition implemented in the body of Latinized church that imitate Baroque architecture. Also polychromy inside that I show you soon. As you see, condition is very bad, and I am going to show you more pictures soon. Church was many times rebuilt. the roof was changed, etc., etc. There is a floor plan, and maybe on this floor plan you can see very easily now there are the three parts, very clearly seen three parts. From the right is sanctuary, in the middle is nave. On the left is the woman porch for women. So the oldest part, this one coming from 17th century, and then those like nave and woman porch came from 18th century. Original one was lost, and then the other auditions came from 19th century. So there are some plans. There was the inventory done years ago. So I am not going to go into details, just showing you very briefly. And it is located on the hill in the middle of nowhere, like most of those churches. There are archival photos, and on these archival photos you could notice maybe how it is changing quickly, and for the last 20 years how it looks differently year from year. So there are some photos. You still the porch on the left is still over there, but the porch is here. But 2010 the porch collapsed. This is the heavy winter in Poland. So welcome. So now it's like this. You should visit Poland in this time of year. So beautiful. And again some. Sorry, not that way. Some archival photos, some just pictures, giving you example how it looks. There is a cemetery around. It is built in log construction. Actually, I forgot to tell you that all those churches are built in log construction. So this is very important actually point. And they have, in majority of cases, boarding. But this church also has a polychromy, like all of them. And this is the nave polychromy that was repainted. It's not original, but this is original in the nave. And this is illusionistic polychromy, again, the Baroque polychromy made on wood. So it's kind of fascinating. And you need to remember, this is middle of nowhere, done by people who never went to any school. So, well, this painter probably saw some better church somewhere painting this. And actually it's not bad quality, so it's difficult to even believe. And well, some more pictures to give you the idea. And then finally, you see here there's some writing, and it is actually showing the date and the fundator of the polychromy, which comes from 19th century. And the sanctuary was, other pictures, sanctuary, which you see on this picture, was repainted. So here we see the bluish color coming from below, so at least 2 layers of paint. So you already saw the condition of this church, but let me show you more pictures. 55, better condition, some closed door, etc., etc. And then year 87, no doors. And then year after year is collapsing, and still is like this. So nobody is really taking care about it. And some more pictures, Yes, you see, everything can be seen here. Some metal sheets, and that's it. Well, it's difficult to even believe that it's still standing in this kind of condition. There are holes in the walls, brown road, white road, everything what can be eating wood is active there. So some more pictures, sorry for skipping, but there were some supports done years ago to strengthen this church, and the roof was changed for metal one, but nothing more done. So this arrow will show you the back that now we can see, but it was in the middle of log at some point. So the half of the log, seal log, is lost. And one more pictures, one more, and also polychromy. Little bit rushing because it's time to go to other things, and it's standing on the foundation made of bricks, which is not original. And the bricks were added, and they are very bad for the wood because the water penetrate in the groundwater. So how it was done originally in Poland? Originally in Poland, the buildings were located on the stones in the corners, on the very important from construction point of view points. And all the wooden pegs, like you see here, or both stones or wooden pegs. If I call it wrongly, this is not peg, sorry, forgive me, but I don't know all the English names for all the things. So I think by seeing you can get the image what I am talking about. So this is why I'm showing you so many pictures. This is like a contemporary way. Well, it can be criticized. We will talk about it a little bit later. So people also started doing things like this. So this is traditional way. So now the degradation of the church is huge. You have, as you see, percentage. And this is again pictures, and there were some dendrochronology made in the dating, so we know this is the oldest part is from 17th century. Now, you saw all this, and then the question is what to do with this. So I will talk soon about the approach I developed, and will show you this and tell you about all the issues and problems of everything. But by seeing something, you are not getting enough knowledge about the about the status, the conservation status, about the state, what is the condition of it. Of course, you can come and knock to the wood and listen to it, but well, sometimes helps, not always. So there are some analyses we are doing in Poland to know about the condition inside of the wood. One of them is resistance drilling. So it measures the resistance of the wood. That is the very thin drill that goes into the wood and depends on the resistance, produce the graph that shows in exactly through the wood what is the resistance in any place of this piece of the wood. So we can call it this semi-destructive or almost non-destructive method of analyzing. There is always problem. Should we analyze because there can be some danger, or leave it? But this is this is not really something that is very dangerous for the historical wood, because the tin is the drill is very thin. So it's like a holes from the wood borers. So it's not really doing a lot of bad things, but it's helping to get idea about the quality of wood inside. And this is on this graph on the upper part. You see that when resistance of wood is high, it means the quality the wood is healthy still. So the graph goes up. When the resistance is low, the graph goes down. So we see like in the middle, there is huge area with decay here, and the picture below shows you this decay. So I made a lot of analysis on this church. There are just some points shown here, some examples, and the graphs I got, the graphs like this. I skip this one, skip this one, skip this one. Talk about the different one, telling you why I choose this one to tell you about it. So this is the graph number 10. And look, where is it? This is the sill lock, which is the lowest part. From outside, it looks beautiful. But how it looks inside there is nothing. So it's empty almost. So the question is, how this change is still standing? This is the hand of the God keeping it standing with this. So I think this analysis is good for giving you idea how by seeing something, you are not able to know what's really happening inside of the piece of the wood. So after taking all these measurements and finding very strange things, I developed some, let's say, very basic plan showing where the elements are completely destroyed, like those red one here. And if they are completely destroyed, it means they need to be taken away and exchanged, because they cannot be, they are just completely destroyed. So this is what we need to talk. And this is actually, the time is flowing very quickly, but this is the most important part of my speech. Try not to be long with this. Well, what to do is this. You saw all of it, and then there is a big talk from the 60s when the Venice Charter show up and the word authenticity become the key point, key word, sorry, for approaching the buildings. So what is the authenticity? How to approach the authenticity of this kind of buildings? Should we conserve and the fabric, which is difficult to keep? What should we actually conserve and how? So that's again for the different lecture. I want to go into the details of technical things that I design, but the long story making short, I would say that there's something more than only fabric in the wooden structures that must be protected. And this is tradition, this is spirituality of the place. So not only fabric, and maybe we should focus more on is how it was done and try to fix it by bringing back to how it looked using the traditional way of repeating some action. And I don't want to say making partial copy, but somehow it could be like this. So this is the big talk, big question, big discussion, and I will be happy to discuss this with you. But now let me go into details about how to approach conservation of this. So when we think that the lower part is completely degraded, we need to let's say this part. This is completely degraded, and the upper part is in better condition. So we need to exchange this part, and it means that we need to remove it somehow. And please be patient, because what I will show you now is very easy. You think, okay, it's nothing special, but things come, so don't worry, the issues will show up in a few minutes. So by using the pneumatic jacks, we can lift the church. Why we can lift it? Because it's like construction. It's very easy. Well, in theory, in practice, it's not, but it can be done. It is done in Poland. So we can lift the church up, exchange all the lower part by, and now question of authenticity. Should we use some metal structure, etc.? Well, I would say no, let's prepare the wood in the same way how they were preparing, and let's make some copy. And then by exchanging the lower part, exchanging the proper foundation, or building them, going back to the proper foundation, bringing back the lower part, we could lower the church. And well, it is done. But well, that's not easy. Wait, little bit more. I'm just coming to the point. This is the diagram showing that how can be done. So the blue one are jack points, the red one is foundation. And by using the jet point, we can just pull over each of the piece and take it. This is actually not very difficult. But we forgot about the polychromy. So that's the question, because, well, those churches are actually easel painting. They're just paintings, three-dimensional paintings. So, well, some of you probably agree with me when we talk about authenticity. We might say, yes, in the case of wooden building, we exchange the elements, following all the traditional way of preparing, using the same species, doing the same way. In Japan, people use the same clothes even. But what about polychromy? Do we like to use polychromy? I know there are some conservators of painting here on this room, and they say no, definitely, because I think we believe that paintings, sorry for this, the polychromy comes more from spirits of the human being. So we don't want to make copy, we want to keep it. And my approach that I developed, and actually we are doing this things in Poland, is that we will use both. We will exchange elements, but keep polychromy. How to do it? So we can work on transfer of polychromy. How to do it? So let's say the yellow one allows. The green one is polychromy. What is the blue one? I didn't have a time to talk about it before, so I tell you now. This is the rural church. So they were painting directly on the wood. No any layer of gesso, anything, no. The paint is directly of wood, which it makes even more difficult. What is the blue one? There are pieces of the canvas that was glued on the meeting points of wood. So keep the painting, prevent painting from cracking, but also making this surface for the painting in this place where the two pieces of the wood meet. So this is actually making even more difficult everything, but let's say we can build some support from the front. Then by attaching the support, we can make some cuts, allowing to unfold, because we have support now in the front, so we can unfold a paint layer together with the canvas, hopefully. Never is easy, but it is possible. And then we can use the pneumatic jacks to separate the logs. So we could get this kind of separation of the logs. And then when we are in this point, we could just, let's say, work on this one piece and then exchange the main body of the element by keeping the layer of the paint. Well, in this case, unfortunately, we need to keep this layer of the paint, thin layer of the paint, with thin layer of the original wood. Will be very difficult to take on the paint layer. It is possible, but difficult. So I would say keeping the little bit layer of the wood. So on left, we are repeating traditional technologies because we are just exchanging the element for the new one using all these authentic things. On the right, we will use, well, some chemical things to strengthen the polychromy. And then the diagram shows you all everything. We can just detach it, exchange the wood, and then for new one, then use the pegs, wooden pegs to attach the new one, because if the future we need to do it again, we can do it again. So this is again like an easel painting when we do transfer of the paint and that attach and back. So that's actually easy, I think, for you to follow, I hope. And then finally, we need to take off the protection layer, and that's it. So summarizing, because my time in 2 or 3 minutes will be done, and I have this last part about iconostasis. I will ask you if you will give me eventually 2 minutes more, but before it, I would like to summarize, because I want to be sure you go to the point what I wanted to tell you. So I show you though plenty of those churches, and I hope I explained you the problem we are facing, and also underline the temporary ideas that we have about heritage. What I think is good idea to do is try to protect something more than fabric, skills, tradition, the way how the things look, the way how the things act, and the way how people live in these places. That's not only fabric. So this is why no any strengthening additional construction. This is not why any contemporary materials. I will go into, unfortunately, it could be called like kind of copy, but can be discussed. This is copy by exchanging elements. But on the same hand, we need to be aware that sometimes we actually don't have an option, and we need to use also some contemporary ways to protect the polychromy. And we need to combine those two things. So I hope it was clear what I said. Now the time is almost over, and I have this last part, which will last like 2-3 minutes. It's longer, but I can do it quickly. So question is if I have a time to do it. Okay, so because it makes even more difficult everything. As I said, the Greek Catholic churches, and again, I hope it was clear for you. So 20 seconds. Latin tradition in Poland, Polish churches have this one space, open space, and Greek Catholic churches are divided into 3 parts. So the sanctuary, sacred space, is closed for the people. They never see the Pope. They never go there. It's prohibited. And Pope is there during the Mass. So this space is closed by iconostasis. So when we talk and think about the churches, about building the approach, how to protect them, how to conserve them, we need to also think about the iconostasis. So what is iconostasis? Iconostasis is the wall. It's the wall that is always the same. That's the difference. I remember, we know with Carolina from Russia, I know in Russia, we went to the church and the Pope said that never in Western world real sacred art was done because we are too individualistic and we are just showing our expression. Real art is only in Orthodox because they always do the same following the rules. This is what Pope said in Russia, and partially we can agree to this. So this is Orthodox. Even this is, in Poland, heavily influenced by Latin tradition. The iconostas is always the same. So you can see by colors the names of the tiers of the rows. I don't have a time to go into details, but also I have some animation, so I could talk without end, but let's skip it, and eventually you will give me time for the other lecture. But I tell you, I have at least 4 or 5 presentations more, different topics, so I'll be happy to talk more and more. And well, in the middle, there are always holy doors, and on the sides, deacon's doors, and they're always like this. So this church in Miękisz Stary also had iconostasis. Because iconostasis does not exist anymore. It was located here on the right with sanctuary, so between sanctuary and the nave. This space. And there are the archival photos showing how it looked. And there are some from 60s drawings before they would, well, some of icons. So iconostasis is a wall built from icons. And the frame, in each we insert the icons. So icons, some of the icons was taken to the museum, the other was somewhere, somebody stolen or whatever. And we have some icons, I found them in so many museums in condition, not so bad, but also not the best one. So they were repainted. All of them were repainted. So here we see the original paint under the later repaintings. Also the frame was repainted. So here is the nice underneath nice reddish painting. See some conservation studios. Some of the conservation here specialists know what is this. This is cleaning of varnish. So in some of the icons, they were trying to check what can be done, like removing old varnish. So that's the archival photo actually showing where the iconostas was standing, and you see the blackish part, darkened part. So this was self-standing structure, was not attached by any way, was just a little bit laying on. I don't know what proper word to use it, but was in the slow angle on the wall, supported by the wall, but was not attached. So here you see the traces of it. Now, when we think about bringing those churches back, to or save them and do all this work I was proposing, thinking about the authenticity, how the authenticity should be understood, what to do with this. We should also think that originally that space had some meaning and iconostasis should be back, because living open space is something kind of against. So what I think the best way is just collect icons and if possible and create some frame for them. But also it must be done some supporting structure. And well, I was thinking what kind of supporting structure can be done. So there are some slats from the back that might be inserted in the floor. Oh, this is also for big discussion, because I would be happy not to use metal one, but for the wooden one, we have the problem that wood works, so there will be some tensions. So this is technical issue now. And then we can attach them. I'm sorry, the animation doesn't go here. I don't know why. We can attach them from the back of the frame, but the way how we attach them, and actually I done this kind of thing on Icon years ago, so it works. It looks kind of primitive, but it works. So when we glue to the icon the piece of the wood that's by glue that is not strong enough and will break when the tension is big, we can use this kind of hacking, sorry for my English if I am using wrong words, but I hope you understand by looking on the drawing. So it allows us for the movement, but if the tension is too big, the icon won't break, or the structure won't break, but the piece of the wood will be separated. Actually, it can be done again. It was done. It works. It works. So I know it from practice. So conclusion for all my speaks. So sorry, I took a little bit more. So the iconostasis, I think, should be returned to the original location. So thank you for everything again, and thank you for listening to my lecture. That's beautiful winter time in Poland, so please come visit me, and we will go to this place where it's -25, so we'll have fun. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Tomasz, for an absolutely fascinating talk about the work that you're doing. We do have time for a small amount of time for questions. Does anybody like Miles? Of course.
Yes. Tomasz, I was interested in your church where you took out, say, a meter or so and then rebuilt it and put the church back on top. Now, I know you've been to Kizhi in Russia.
Yes.
Where it was multi-story, and they took out a complete story each season, rebuilt it, the next season put the next one out. That was very convincing. But in your case, you're going to have no vertical continuity structurally, the vertical continuity to the floor, or aesthetically. Now, I know you may, when it's clad with shingles, be able to cover the aesthetic problem, but the structural problem must be a major one.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope I understood well your point. So in Kizhi, we were talking that in Kizhi they made all this conservation in structures. They were working in stages. Yeah, because, well, that's a much bigger structure and much complicated structure. So I don't think it requires any stages. It can be done in one stage. Again, I'm not sure if I got the point.
Meter or so of new work and the old church on top.
Yeah.
How do you join them structurally, and how do you cover it aesthetically?
Okay, so when you go to Poland and you are lucky to see the work in process, you will see the church with hall of 1 meter below. So the upper part is standing, the lower is gone. So they implement some kind of support by the pieces of wood around to hold it. So they build the structure to hold the upper part, which is waiting for the lower part be fixed. Or you can lower part to the ground.
Finished product, not the process.
Ah, okay,
What you end up with, yeah.
okay.
It's saying that you will be able to read very distinctly between the new restored work and the old church sitting above.
Mhm.
How do you manage that? You've talked about taking a sliver, a small section of the iconography on the inside so
Mhm.
that there's a continuity. of
Yes, yes.
aesthetic internally. How do you do that externally?
Okay. So, well, that's the other question about authenticity, because in many parts of the world, they keep it to get the patina with time. And it doesn't bother us to see the new part below on the lower part and the old part in the upper part.
Can I ask a question about the churches that are still used?
Yes.
What maintenance do they do to the timber, the external timber, on a regular basis? Do they exchange the shingles? So it might help us understand, for those of us who are looking just at your images, because in the context of Poland, what you might get is a renewal of external fabric very regularly in churches, but these have been stuck in time. And so it may not look so incongruous in the restorations, because that's what's happening. Is that what happens? Those shingles are renewed regularly?
Yes. So let me answer this question in that way, that in some European tradition, they protect wood by applying some layers, let's say tar in Norwegian tradition, from northern tradition. From Polish tradition, we do not have this kind of way. We haven't used this kind of way of protection. So it was regularly replaced, or what also you need to remember, that those churches were built in the very rural areas, so maybe they were not really carrying, but if something was destroyed, there was just rebuilding or remodeling. They were not thinking about those churches as we now. So we don't have this kind of tradition that we cover wood or protect by somehow different way than exchanging. As for the shingles, yes, this was a regularly exchange. What means regularly? 20 years, I would say, is about. So the shingles, why the churches was covered by shingles? I think all over the world we cover by boards or shingles, not only for aesthetic reasons, but also for the protection, but generally for the protection. So yes, the shingles were exchanged, definitely.
I just wondered, after doing this sort of work, do you actually get a community to come back to look after the cathedral going forward?
No, very quick answer. No. Well, we are coming into more difficult problems. So, making long story short, 1947 is the time when Ukrainian, Greek Catholic communities are removed from Poland. All the heritage is left. Before Second War, Poland was not like now, well, not now anymore, but Poland was not like after Second War, homogeneous country. In each place, there were Jewish communities, Orthodox communities, Polish communities, and they lived together. So after Second War, no Jewish, no Ukrainians. But not only Ukrainians were taking care about those churches. I mean, not only Ukrainians were Greek Catholic followers. Also, there were different minorities. And again, I said it on the beginning, this is very complicated. So you have several different minorities. All of them were Polish, because those Ukrainians also can be called Polish. So majority of those people were removed from Poland, but some small communities survive. And those communities, which is case of 2, maybe 3 churches, made the conservation or pay or collect money for conservation for themselves, and they use the churches. But the 97% is after Ukrainian communities, and they even so many Ukrainians come back to Poland. No, really, there is any interest in taking it back. I mean, not taking back to Ukraine, but using it at all. After Second War, when the churches were abandoned, some Polish communities did not have a church, decided to use churches, Greek Catholic churches, so they changed them inside. But the problem from the 60s, I think around the world, but in Poland was also that you don't want to look back like a backward person, you want to be new. So they started to build churches from the permanent materials. So the churches were abandoned second time. So now the issue I show you, this is one of the issues. The second one, what to do with this after conservation, because they will stay empty because nobody is going to use them. We don't have Greek Catholic communities. I mean, very few people. We don't. I hope I answer your question. They were not decorated in general. In some small parts of Poland, I have the other presentation. Eventually, one day, the housing, simple housing, was painted, but very rarely. Not in Poland. In some other countries in Europe, they were painted heavily, or churches, or houses. Houses not in Poland. They were just raw wood. So eventually not for the churches, but for the houses, the white, how you call this, whitewash. Yeah, thank you, lime. Oh, they were using lime or whitewash, but housing, people, not for the churches. So there is no decoration.
Have to draw the formalities to a close. So could you join me in thanking Tomasz very much?
Thank you. Thank you. But I think what's one more question.
We need
Ah,
to finish.
okay,
so I'm sure
okay, sorry. Okay, thank you so much.
I'm sure people.